You always ask the questions nobody asks. So
And a lot of it's happening in my own house. Here.
Because it rains so much. Yeah.
That's a good one.
But you're the only person ever who's ever asked me that question. Ever.
Do something fun, have a romance, maybe.
Wow, what a presentation.
And I can show you my favorite tattoo.
I'm still laughing about that intro about Jurassic Park and elephants.
She still hasn't got any elephants, so it's a win-win so far.
Those things are always interesting just because I'm so like, scattered.
I find it so funny because we also met before the pandemic. We have a longer history.
Did you really bring that up? That was a private conversation.
I hope people keep thinking that I'm really relaxed while I'm playing and do not realize when I'm playing the difficult parts of the song.
That's a really good question. Again, Mark, yeah, man. Everybody needs to subscribe because Mark here, he asks really good questions. I'll go this way. There he is.
Art needs multiple voices to truly shine.
So that's when I say, okay, you need to really learn how to do it right.
It's bound to come out at one point. So this was what was coming out.
Oh, you sure you're not interested? I was like, don't ask me again. I can't refuse it twice.
A wrecking machine. I'll take it.
9 to 11 years to become a neurophysician.
Anytime I see a breakdown and then I'm like, that seems different, I'm in.
Be in their presence, so I conduct my life in a way that I hope that they want to be in my presence as well.
Arts based here in Seattle, Washington. And thank you so much for joining me on this Saturday, the 29th of January, 2022. And just a few quick housekeeping things that if this is your first time joining me on my YouTube channel, if you could please do me a favor and hit the subscribe button and that notification bell, I'd greatly appreciate that. And if you're over on the Twitch side of things, if you could follow me there, that's where I started with all these live streams. Where's my camera at? All these live stream interviews almost 2 years ago as we're coming up on things into May. And if you'd like to know what I have coming up, because I do have other live streams coming up that they were supposed to happen this month, but because of my schedule, they're pushing to February. If you follow me as Eclectic Arts Media, one word on Instagram, that's where I post everything first. And then some of that information migrates over to other social media platforms. Okay, let's get to things. My guest today has been touching people's lives with her voice and artistry for decades. She just released her brand new album, Neptune Blue, yesterday on Frontiers Music. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts Virtual Studio, Miss LANA LANE. Lane, I should say. Hi, LANA. How are you?
I'm excellent. How are you doing?
I'm doing really great. Thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure.
Awesome. And I want to say hi to Ove, who's over in Norway, who's joining the chat right now. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah. And so let's dive right into Neptune Blue before we kind of move into other things. And I know you've had full transparency. I knew who you were, but I didn't realize like how far back your career went.
Right.
Like,
it's been a while.
It's like, oh my gosh. So was this just kind of the right time to do a new album? What was kind of the things that kind of got you motivated or inspired to, work on some new music?
Yeah, I think it was the right time. Just been in the past 10 years, just kind of living life and enjoying, what Eric and I have created. In the beginning of our career, sometimes we were releasing 2, 3, 4 records a year, which is really stressful. And you kind of lose the joy of, making music when it's under duress sometimes. And so we just took some time off. My mom is elderly, wanted to spend some time with her. And in that time, my father passed away. And so it was just kind of a time to reflect on actual life. And then, Frontiers had been asking me for a while, and haven't done it because it didn't feel right. And I didn't really think I had anything new to say. But then last year when they asked, it was, right time.
Okay, yeah, and for myself, I'm a musician and a photographer and writer and all that fun stuff, and I know what that's like when it feels like either you're being pressured to do something, or you're not inspired by something, but when it feels right, you just kind of know, and you can't really even predict it. It's just kind of happens. It's like, my gut, it tells me in my heart, this is a good time to start working on things.
Yeah, it feels right and comfortable and home again. Where before it was just a little, you just were so concerned about meeting the deadlines that, you just lost sight of this is supposed to be creative and, fun. But yeah.
Yeah,
Comes
well,
with the territory.
yes, it does, whether we like it or not.
Right.
I distinctly remember when I was doing some, used to work as an audio engineer a long, long time ago, back when I had hair. And just having, certain deadlines, and sometimes those deadlines got moved up. And after a while, it became such a grind of like, there's no joy in this now.
That's right.
And I need to take a step away from it. In my case, I went a completely different direction away from it. So with the songs that are on Neptune Blue, were those things that you decided that in the last year or so that you and Eric are going to write these, or are there any songs on the album that were also like from 10 years ago or something further back?
No, nothing that far back. We probably started writing probably a year ago, and recorded the album probably in about 4 months. Eric's a very prolific writer, and he can write a lot of songs. I take a bit longer to write. So if you were to rely on me for an album of music, it would be longer than a year. I think a couple of the songs Eric had in his arsenal, but just from maybe a couple years ago, like Under the Big Sky and Remember Me. But the other ones were all written in the past year.
Okay, and I have kind of a random mind, so please forgive me. I'm just kind of curious about that. For these songs, what was the songwriting process? So is Eric's coming up with something, or you're coming up with something, or do you sit in the room together? How does that kind of work for you guys?
It works different ways for different songs. With the songs that Eric wrote a few years ago, he had reference tracks to those already, and he would play them for me, and then I would make changes if I felt there were some changes. Other times, I will write a song on piano. I don't read music, so my sweet husband has to tell me like what the chords are. So that kind of, which is probably one of the reasons why it takes a while for me to write a song too, because I'll pick out chords, and then Eric will say, well, what is that? That's a whatever with a diminished whatever. And then sometimes we'll be in a room together and write. It just depends on the type of song sometimes. And sometimes I'll write a short story or a poem and then add music to that.
Okay, there's
no like set way of writing.
Okay, well, and that sounds actually kind of good. It's organic to the song.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay, and I can relate to what you're saying about perhaps not being able to read music, because I took guitar lessons for like 3 years, but that was like doing tablature stuff. It wasn't like actual, clefs and all these other kinds of things and theory parts of it.
Right, and learning the rules of what writing music is. I mean, I took piano lessons too when I was younger, and they just didn't interest me at all. But I really liked just sitting down and playing on the piano. And Eric said, sometimes not knowing the rules is a good thing, because the songs they don't follow rules. So sometimes the melodies or the chords are unexpected for the listener, which is, nice.
Yeah, that's very true. I think you could probably look through like all types of genres of music. If you have people that have been studying music for years, and you have some people that never studied at all, and they can be equally successful based on their artistry and what they're trying to express.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you mentioned like either writing a short story or maybe some poems and putting the music to that.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you've been doing for a long time?
Yeah. I find that's an easier way to really tell a story, is by writing a story. Because sometimes, most times you write about personal experiences with love and loss of love, but I include those as well. But I really like, either kind of a fantasy story or a sci-fi story, because that imagery helps me create the melodies and the chords too. So it all just, that's the kind of writing that helps me.
Okay. And have you ever thought, and forgive me, maybe you've already done this, but would there be a way to take your writing of, say, a short story or just even the storyline and combining that into music? So like if you had like a graphic novel, like a multimedia kind of project type of thing?
Yeah. I never thought about that, but that would be cool.
Okay. Yes. That's where my mind went to, because I'm a writer first and foremost. So when I start thinking about short stories and things that I've written, and then the music part, sometimes like, oh, I should try to put these worlds together somehow.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems to be easier for me to write a song when I base it on that. Like, or if I read a short story and I'm inspired by that story, and I'll create a story along those lines.
That makes sense. I think it's almost like the creative spark kind of already started from whether you wrote a story or, like you said, if you read one, it kind of gets those gears going already.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And I know this is kind of a loaded question because it might change from day to day, but do you have a particular song or maybe a couple songs on the new album that really stand out to you right now, which could change tomorrow?
Yeah, I think for me, the two songs that I wrote with Mark McCright, Someone Like You and Bring It On Home, are kind of a departure for what type of songs we usually record. And they're a little bit more on the bluesy side. And I really liked that freedom that, I really wanted each song to organically become what it was going to become without it being, put into a genre or a category. And so those two songs, and Neptune Blue was one that I wrote. That was probably one of the first songs that I wrote for the album, and one that I wrote kind of quickly, which doesn't happen often, which is why we ended up calling the album Neptune Blue, because it was like, well, this song came out fast. That's good. Hopefully it'll be like that for the rest of, the other 9 that are coming.
Okay. And I see always saying that Neptune is his favorite planet. Is Neptune your favorite planet, Lana, as well? Or where did the title come from?
It came from, I was doing some astrology research, and there was an article about Neptune coming out of retrograde, and it was during the months that we were writing the album, and it supposedly was supposed to be a very musical, or getting into your musical side. And I found that really interesting. And so, and also I love the rings around the planet, and that it's the ice giant, as it were.
Okay, that's cool. And as I mentioned to everybody out there that's watching this now or watching this down the road, that the album just came out yesterday, and you already had 2 videos out, and then you just dropped a third video yesterday for Far From Home.
Yep.
When did you start working on those videos, and what can you kind of tell me about that?
We started working on those videos probably in the summer, I would say. June or July, I think it was, and we did it in this really cool warehouse in the Garment District in Los Angeles, downtown Los Angeles. And Eric and I live in Northern California, so we went down and got the drummer Greg, who lives in Southern California as well, and we just wanted it to be kind of like the record was done. A lot of it was done live. A lot of it is first takes, which is really nice. And so we wanted to do that in the videos as well. So.
Okay. And here's my random mind again. I noticed in the videos, I think probably all 3 of them, that there's parts where you have like a stream of fabric that you're kind of doing things with. Was that your idea, or where did that come from?
The scarf has been a prop of mine since the very beginning, because when Eric and I started touring, if you know from my back catalog, there's a lot of songs that have long instrumental sections, and I really didn't know what to do while those were going on. And sometimes, walking off stage is, I don't know, just didn't seem Right. And so Eric was like, well, you could play the tambourine. And I said, I'm not playing the tambourine. And so when we were in Japan, a Japanese fan had sent me a scarf because they saw on one of my other live performances that I used a scarf. And then just from there, fans would send me these awesome scarves, and I got to use them, when I played. And it's kind of a comfort thing for me too, because I don't play an instrument. And so it's nice to just keep it moving. And yeah, for me anyway, I like it.
Okay, well, thanks for sharing that story, and that's it makes sense, because I think any musician that maybe, and could be your husband, could be anybody, if you take their instrument away from them and just have them out there on the stage, it's really odd.
Yeah.
Like where's my guitar at?
Yeah.
What do I do?
What do I do? And I also felt the walking off and walking back on and walking off and walking back on just kind of took away from the experience and the performance. So, I just walk around stage, and the fabric has to be a certain type of fabric. It's got to be pretty light and long so that it, has kind of a life of its own where it can, flow nicely.
Okay. And is this something that, I mean, again, forgive me if you've already done this, but do you have scarves available like in your online store to buy?
No. I hoard all my scarves. I'm a scarf hoarder.
Okay. Yeah. Just that kind of, me being a fanboy when it comes to certain things, that I kind of know how fans think. It's like, oh, if I could have one of those, that would be so awesome. And I can do that. Right? Or maybe do an auction for like a benefit or something.
Yeah, I did do that a few years ago. It was for a cancer benefit. There was one of my scarves that we all signed, and did that.
Cool. And so this kind of begs the question, with a new album out and videos and with Frontiers, are there any plans for even like a singular show in California, or any kind of mini tour or anything kind of live coming somewhere this year?
Not at the moment, but you never say never. I think it's a business, and Frontiers is going to see how the sales are, and we'll go from there. If there's any money for touring, we would love that, of course. But we never say never. We keep fingers crossed that it will go well, and that it'll spur sales from the back catalog too, because it's 26 plus years of music. It's a deep catalog.
Yes, it is, because I started diving into it, and I'm like, oh gosh, this could take a long time.
yeah, it would take a long time. Yeah. Well, there is the very best of LANA LANE coming out in Japan next week, I believe. So that kind of sums up, my career in a double disc, as it were.
Okay, well, and I'm going to ask you a question about one of these older songs in a minute, and I just want to say hi to Industrial Girl down in East LA, who just joined us. And
hi, Industrial Girl.
Yeah, and Industrial Girl, again, sincere condolences for your loss in your family. I know that happened recently, so I'm very sorry about that, but I'm glad you could join us and join LANA right now. One song that I think was maybe one of the first ones I heard was your version of Autumn Leaves. And yeah, it's such a beautiful version of that song. Can you kind of just give me some background on that period of time when you did that song, and kind of like what it meant to you and how you came up with that arrangement and everything? It's just beautiful.
Well, that really means a lot to me, because I come from a musical family. My mom was a singer, and she sang those standards. And when I was little and growing up, that's all I heard in the house was, Frank and Ella and Count Basie and all those things. And I think those songs always have a nostalgic and warm feeling for me. And I love the song Autumn Leaves, and we decided to cover it on one of the covers albums, and Eric arranged it, and I think he did a beautiful job too.
Yeah, it's something that I can listen to time and time again, and it just takes me away. As soon as Yeah.
Well, it's really nice. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you for doing it, because it's an amazing version for people out there that if you haven't had a chance to listen to Lana's version, when you're done with this live stream, go check it out. Amongst all the other hours and hours and hours of music that you can.
Hours and hours.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I know we kind of have some limited time, and I wanted to kind of take a little bit of a detour into, you have a gourmet food business that you've been doing, and so. And it seems like it's been going on for what, at least 10 years? It's been.
Yes. It started when my father passed away. He was a huge fan, of course, as most parents are, but he would, get the CDs and read the booklet from front to back, and just really important part of my life. And when he passed away, I just quit doing music, because it felt like every time, I went to sing a note, I would get teary-eyed and I would think about him, and it just wasn't a good place. But I needed a creative outlet for myself. And my brother owned a coffee house on the main street where we live in Northern California. And I had started to make some jams and jellies and spice nuts. And he said, well, sell them here. So I started out really small. And then I got a reputation, and some of the wineries started buying it. And then my brother retired, and I thought, well, what am I going to do? I really love to have my own shop. And I had an online presence too. And so I just kind of dove in 3 years ago and opened a little brick and mortar, and right in time for COVID to hit. Great timing, but I'm still here. So, it's been really good. It's been really a nice outlet, because I think food should, warm your belly and your spirit like, music does. They kind of go together to me. They feed your soul, and
Yeah, no, that's wonderful, and that absolutely makes sense. And it is a creative outlet if you're working with food, and especially with your own business and creating things. So, were you making things like a long time ago, just in your home, and decided this might be something I can transfer over to your brother's coffee shop?
Yeah, because my dad was an awesome cook as well, and so was his sister. And I just learned from them over the years, and I really liked creating different flavor profiles. Like in the jams, I do like a raspberry jalapeno and a marionberry habanero, but I also do a strawberry balsamic and a berry bliss that's made with orange zest, and just like experimenting a little bit, and something that is unique and locally made seems to have worked out really nicely for me.
That got me super interested. It's partially probably because I haven't eaten any food today either.
Oh, sorry.
No, and it's LANA LANE gourmetfoods.com. Is that correct?
Gourmet Goods.
Gourmet Goods. Okay.
Which is a play off of Curious Goods, which was one of my albums back in the day.
There we go. I was just going to ask if he had things that were tying from the music world into some of the labels for your products in the food shop.
Yeah, and it's the same LANA LANE logo. We just changed some of the flowery parts to like wheat or grapes, but it's still the LANA LANE logo. So had fun with that.
Okay, and here we go. Like I was kind of mentioning earlier about like multimedia things. Have you figured out anything that you'd like to do with your food that also is going to incorporate some music? Like if you had we worked with a winery or something and did your food in the winery, and then had maybe you did an acoustic set or something, or any kind of.
No, but I always have thought it would be really fun to have like a little online cooking show where some of my other musical people that I work with who love to cook would be on. Like John Payne is an awesome cook, and I would love to do like a show where we cook something together, and do that with different musical artists who like to cook, because there are a lot of them who are great cooks or bakers, maybe more on the savory side, some more on the sweet side, but that's a logistic thing too, to to get together. But it's always been a dream of mine. I've told Eric that many times, that it'd be really fun to do like at home with LANA LANE or something, and then have, musical people come on, and along with all the, the disasters that would happen, burning things, spilling stuff, whatever. I think it would be fun.
Yeah, no, that sounds awesome. And I see like Industrial Girl saying, yeah, she would love to see that. I don't know how to cook, so I need to learn. And in some ways, I mean, this virtual world might be a solution to that issue of logistics. It's kind of hard. I mean, you might have to have multiple cameras or whatever, and your guests would have to have a camera. But I know there are people using Twitch and using YouTube that have done this type of thing where they can collaborate on cooking and be in different parts of the world or what have you. And
it would be fun.
Yeah, and I'm thinking back to a guest that was talking about that. She was just getting into cooking on her live stream, and she had a small kitchen fire during the stream.
See, and I think those are the things that are, probably most fun is, the bloopers that happen, because, everything going off perfectly is, a little boring.
Absolutely. And as we kind of wrap things up here, so what else is coming up? Do we have a fourth video? Do we have anything else? We're just kind of waiting to see how things go and then figuring out what happens next.
Well, I owe 2 more albums to Frontiers.
Oh.
I signed a 3 album deal with them. So pretty soon here we'll start working on that. I don't believe there's going to be any more videos for this record. And that Eric and I will start diving into writing for the next one.
Okay. Wow. That's awesome to hear that we've got 2 albums coming out at some point. And there's always something to that when you kind of know that there's something. I mean, we were talking about this earlier, but sometimes it can be kind of good to know, hey, I've got certain things that I do need to do at some point. I can't just like have an open-ended whenever kind of thing.
Yeah, and it'll probably be a year or so, and that's a doable amount of time to make a record. So.
Okay. Awesome. Well, LANA, thank you so much for taking the time today. I really appreciate
Mark.
it. Yeah, and every success with the new album and with your Gourmet Foods. And so I want to thank Industrial Girl and Ove for joining us in the chat. And
thank you guys.
I'm definitely going to go online and look at your food right now. see what I can order. Okay, awesome. Have a great day, great weekend, and take care.
Okay, Mark, thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.